Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Service High Drama is proud to present a night of ghoulish tales and macabre imaginings. Please be advised the stories and vignettes that follow are scary, and you should not let little ones listen if they may be upset by violence, monsters, spirits, murder, and all kinds of other lovely little things of that nature. Those unable to distinguish between the real and the make-believe may feel their blood curdle tonight, as real terror is found not in reality or fiction, but in the gray area in between. For example, let me take you now to the shores of Crystal Lake, where some teenagers are getting up to speed with a local urban legend.
I don't want to scare anyone, but I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason. His body was never recovered from the lake after he drowned. Now, if you listen to the old-timers in town, they'll tell you he's still out there. Some sort of demented creature surviving in the wilderness. He's probably full-grown by now, stalking, stealing what he needs to survive. Some folks claim they've even seen him, right in this area. That girl who survived that night at Camp Blood, that Friday the 13th, she claims she saw him. She disappeared 2 months later. Vanished. Blood was everywhere. No one knows what happened to her. Legend has it that Jason saw his mom beheaded that night, and he took his revenge. A revenge he'll continue to seek if anyone ever enters his wilderness again. And by now, I guess you know. You're the first to return here. 5 years. 5 long years he's been dormant, and he's hungry. Jason Voorhees is out there, watching, waiting to kill, waiting to devour. Thirsty for young blood.
Has quarantine got you down? Are you tired of the everyday routine? Want to get away from it all? We offer you Escape. Escape designed to free you from the 4 walls of today. Tonight we escape to a lonely lighthouse off the steaming jungle coast of French Guiana and a nightmare world of terror and violence as we bring you 3 Skeleton Key.
Picture this place. A gray tapering cylinder welded by iron rods and concrete to the key itself. A bare black rock 150 feet long, maybe 40 wide at low tide. That's at low tide. At high tide, just the lighthouse, raising 110 feet straight up out of the ocean. And all about it the churning water, gray-green scum, dappling, warm as soup, and swarming with gigantic bat-like devilfish. Great, violent schools of Portuguese man-of-war, and yes, sharks. The big ones. The 15-footers. And as if this wasn't enough, there was a hot, dank, rotten smell. Wind that came at us day and night off the jungle swamps of the mainland, and wind that smelled like death. A wind that smelled the slow and frightful death that came one night to this bare black rock. Set in the base of the lighthouse was a watertight bronze door. And then you went, and up, yes, up, and round, past the tanks of oil and coils of rope, casks of wicks and racks of lanterns, sacks of spuds and cartons and cans, and up, round and round. Over the light storeroom was the food storeroom, and over the food storeroom was the bunk room, where the three of us slept. And over the bunk room was the living and cooking room, and over the living and cooking room was the light. She was a beauty, big steel and bronze baby, with the sun gleaming through the glass walls all about, bouncing, blinding, little beams of the big, shiny reflectors, glittering and refracting through her lenses. The whole gigantic bulk of her balance like a ballerina on a glistening steel axle of her rotary mechanism. She was a sweetheart of light. And at night, you'd lay there on the stone deck of the gallery. She was with her revolving smoothly and quietly over your head, easing her bright white eye 360 degrees around the horizon. You'd lay there, watching to see that the feeder kept working, that everything ran right, and it wouldn't be bad. The other two fellows snoring in their sacks 2 levels down. You'd smoke your pipe to kill the stink of the wind, and it wouldn't be bad. About those other two, Lewis and August, what a pair. Lewis, he was head man. Yes, a big fellow from the Bascal country. Black beard, little hard black eyes, and a pair of arms that I tell you, those arms were as big around as my legs. Yes, head man, he was, and what word he let go was law. A silent fellow, and although I spent my first few weeks trying to strike up a real conversation, the most I could get out of him was,
Gene, I took up this profession because I don't like people. They want to talk too much. It's supposed to be quiet work, light tending. So let's keep it that way. You're getting to be as bad as August. I thought they'd finally send someone who knew how to keep their mouth shut.
that was Lewis. When he accused me of becoming like August, I quieted down because August was the talkiest man I'd ever met. The talkiest and ugliest. He was hunchback, stood 4 feet high, and red hair and blue eyes. It seems he'd been an actor in Paris.
Yes, yes, indeed. Played in over 200 different productions, dear boy. At the Grand Guigal, oh, but it was monstrous. Horrible the way we used to scare the audiences. I was hated. Yes, yes, they used to throw things and hiss and bare their teeth at me. Finally, it got too bad. I couldn't stand this any longer. I gave up the theater. My nerves, you understand, yes. Gave it up completely. I really did. Couldn't stand it any longer.
It all started one morning at 2:30. I was on watch, laying on the cold stone deck, pulling on my pipe, staring out at the blackness, the phosphorescent combers, and the big yellow star, when out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something showed up for a second. Something the light had touched, far off. I waited for her to come around, and when she did, there it was, a three-master, a big one, about a half-mile off, and coming down out of the northwest, coming straight for us. You must understand, our light was where it is for a reason, a very good reason. Dangerous, submerged reefs surrounding us, and ships kept clear. But this sailing vessel, was coming straight on. I went over to the gallery door and yelled, "Lewis! Lewis!" Couldn't understand it. I waited for the light to come back around.
What is it?
Ship headed for the reef.
Coming right up.
I had the glasses out now. I couldn't read her name, but I could see quite plainly all all sails set, and the foam creaming away under her bow. Her beautiful lines, the Dutch ship, I guessed her. But why didn't she turn? Every time it passed, our light hit her with the glare of the day.
Ship, where?
Northwest. The light will touch her in a moment.
Can't they see?
Look at her. She just keeps coming on.
Yeah, the squareheads.
What? What is it? What is it?
Watch. Northwest.
I know what it is.
Hmm?
The
What?
Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman. We did a play about her once. Oh, what a performance! You ghastly galleon, hag-ridden, curse-ridden.
Shut up, will ya? She's luffing.
Yes.
Sloppy way to come about. She's derelict, that's it.
Derelict?
Abandoned. The crew left it for some reason or other. But instead of sinking, she's gone on, running every wind.
She'll not run long, not with these reefs to break her up.
Beautiful ship. Now why would men leave a beautiful ship like that?
She ain't ram us all, though. We all expected it. But as we waited for the crash, she loofed again. Caught some odd gust of wind, and went about. We watched her for the rest of those black hours, heeling and rocking, pushing and pulling, by every stray wind, every freak current, watched her until the dawn came, till the sea turned from black to a pearly gray, and on she came again, heading for us. We all had our glasses trained on her now.
August, you can kill the light.
Right, Chief.
Shouldn't look so good by daylight. Think she'll ground this time?
What?
I say, do you think she'll ground this time?
That's impossible. Absolutely impossible.
What?
Here, take my glasses. They're better than yours.
Alright. What is your... I had to focus, and then my breath froze in my throat. The decks were swarming with dark brown carpets that looked like gigantic fungus. The undoubtedly, and on the mast and yard, the guy and all were hundreds, no thousands, no I don't know, an endless number of enormous rats.
See 'em?
Yes, I see them.
Now we know why she's derelict.
Yes, now we know.
What are you two doing? Here, give me a look.
Yeah, give him the glasses. Take a look, Chatterbox. Give you something to talk about.
She's still heading for us.
Yep.
If she's going to turn, she'd better turn soon.
Suppose she doesn't.
You mean, suppose she piles up on the quay?
It's low tide.
Yes, it is.
Where's all the conversation, August? Huh? Here, want the glasses again? Want another look?
No! No!
She's still coming on.
Go away! Go away!
Turn, will ya? Turn, I say. I pray you turn.
She's cracking up.
Rats, look, on the water, like a carpet.
They're swimming.
Sure they're swimming. They're ship rats.
But they're swimming for the rocks.
The door below, it's open.
Come on. Down we went, racing down the stone stairs, taking them 3 and 4 at a time. Scared. You bet. You bet we were scared.
August, you get the windows. Maybe they can climb. We don't know.
Right, Chief, but hurry.
Look. See him.
No. Oh, yes, I do. Up at the other end of the rocks.
Look at him.
Millions.
They smell us. Here they come. Close the door.
Can't! I can't! It's stuck!
Here, let me.
Made it.
That was close.
One got in. Look, there.
Get him!
Come on, Chief.
He was as big as a tomcat. Bigger. His eyes were wild and red. His teeth, long and sharp and yellow. He went for us, starved and ravenous. And we fought him. Fought that one rat all over the room. It was... Oh, believe me, I do not exaggerate. It was like fighting a panther.
Got him.
We better get aloft. As we ran up the winding staircase, we passed the tiny windows and the ravenous of the various levels, and at every one was a thick, raving, screaming current of brown fur. I was ahead of Lewis, and I dreaded each successive level. Suppose they had found a way in.
Look at them. Will you look at them?
It's a nightmare.
Will you look at them?
The air in the gallery was thick and fetid with the stank of them. The light was dim, brown, filtered through the crawling mass that swarmed over the glass. All about us, we could not see the sky. Nothing but them. Their red eyes, their claws, their wriggling, hairy snouts, their teeth, the rats. They screamed and howled and threw themselves against the glass. They were starving, and we three, we stood very quietly, very, very quietly in the center of the glass room under the beautiful light, and we waited.
What can we do? What can we do?
Take it easy, old man. Just take it easy.
I can't.
It won't do any good to stand here and shake.
Yeah, Jean's right. Hey, anybody want a cigar?
Yes, I'll have one, thank you.
Good boy. We've got to keep things calm about this thing. Here's a lighter.
They don't have fire, do they?
Guess not.
Give me another match. You don't like that match? You don't like that much. Turn the lights on.
Don't rile them, August.
Give me some more matches. I'll strike them and strike them and strike them until they get scared and go away.
They won't go away. Not until...
Finish. Not until what?
Not until they've been fed.
You can just take so much horror, and then you get used to it. And they were interesting to watch, you know. They couldn't understand the glass. They could see us, and they could rush at us, but the thin, invisible barrier holding them off stopped them. From time to time, we caught a glimpse of the rocks below. More rats down there, swarming brown velvet in the bright, tropical sunlight. And then the tide began to rise. If only it drowned some of them.
The ship's rats don't drown. No, sir. You can't drown one of them. They're all climbing up the tower.
This bunch around us is getting thicker.
Yeah, say, what's the time?
6:15.
You've got first watch, Gene.
Right.
Wake me up at 10.
I will.
Come along now, August.
It was getting dark. One side of the room was lit, and a soft, filtered red sunset through the rats. Oh, very pretty. I set the weight, checked my fuel, and then lit the lamp. It caught them, lit them into their gigantic, wraggling web of pale, hairless bellies, twitching red tails, bright eyes. Then I started the rotary motor. The light drove them mad as she swung slowly and smoothly about, it blinding them in the furious stabbing bar of light, moving continuously about, every turning, every touching, every moving around and around. They twist, twisting and shuddering, eyes flaming. When they were struck by the light, the bright light moving in behind on the dark side of the room, so close I dared not turn my back. But you cannot help turning your back when you're in a room made of glass. On the dark side of the room, you couldn't not see them, only their eyes. Thousands of points of blank red lights, blinking and twinkling like the stars of hell. Lewis relieved me at 10, but I didn't get much sleep that night. And when I came up into the gallery early next morning, there stood August, his back to me. He was bowing to the rats, waving his arms and making a speech.
Ha! My dear audience, I'm going to play once again a magnificent role which made me the toast of the Paris theatre. Evil genius of the medieval world, I am he who did guide dark souls slip into the nether regions. Do not be frightened, little children. I will not hurt you.
I stood staring at him, horror struck. But he didn't notice me. The man had gone mad. He kept turning, telling his story to all the rats, leaving no one out. August! August!
Ah, another one, a latecomer. Take a seat on the aisle, dear patron.
August, stop it! Stop it!
Move over there, let the gentleman be seated.
But he didn't stop. He went on, bowing and scraping at the rats, his big blue eyes rolling and winking, his wild red hair waving about him I grabbed him by the arm, slapped his face. He looked at me like a child, and then, his face screwed up, he looked as though he were about to cry. Go below! Go on!
Very well then. Later, my dear audience. Later. Matinee today.
Sure, he was crazy, but I guess we all were. A few hours later, he came back up and caught Lewis and me teasing the rats. Yes, sounds horrible. It was fun. We would get right up against the glass and make faces at them. It drove them crazy. They would scratch away trying to get at our eyes. Lewis was even cuter about it. He'd pull a piece of bread out of his pocket and press it against the glass. The rats would scramble into a solid ball, biting each other, clustering like grapes. From time to time, a whole knot of them would slip and fall the 110 feet to the surface below.
Look at the sharks.
They're eating them!
Yeah, the sharks are our friends. Here, I'll get another bunch together. Here, my beauties. That's it. That's it. Pile up. Kill each other. There they go.
August joined in too. Oh, very ingenious August. He learned that if he spread-eagled himself against the glass, they bunched and piled against his figure. Then he'd leap back.
Look, my portrait in rats.
It went on all day. I was laying in bed. It was about midnight. I was very tired, and I was just beginning to fall asleep when I became conscious of a new sound. Couldn't figure it at first. I got up, lit the lamp, and went to the window. Even as I looked at it, I saw one of the panes began to sag in. They'd eaten the wood away. Lewis, come quick!
What is it?
They found a way in. I held the glass with my hand. Now they were all going crazy and assured of the success and of this maneuver, were all nibbling away at the wood. Lewis ran below and then returned with a large sheet of tin. We spread it against the window and hammered it into place. Even as we did so, we felt the heavy bodies thudding against the other side, and as the window gave away.
That ought to hold. If it doesn't, we're done for.
Rats can't eat tin.
No, they can't.
What was that?
I don't know. It came from below.
The storeroom window.
They're in. They're swarming up the stairs.
Drop the trap.
Right.
2 of them got in.
Let's go after them.
We didn't have to go after them. They came after us. I leaped to one side and grabbed the Merlin spike, swung, and smashed one in midair.
Ah!
I whirled to see Lewis with the other. It had ripped his hand open. The blood was pouring all over the place. He held his hand aloft and kicked at the snarling rat I stepped and swung and got him.
My hand. He got my hand.
That's both of them, Lewis. I'll get you something to tie that up.
Blood. Look at it. My blood. I'm bleeding.
Now don't worry about it, Lewis. Here, look. I'll wind this handkerchief around it. It'll be okay.
Blood.
There now, it's not bad. Just the flesh. Then I became conscious of another new sound. They were gnawing their way through the wooden trapdoor. I watched the wood, fascinated, and even as I did, it began to give away, and the bristling whiskery noses shoved through. Lewis, we've got to go. We've got to get up. Next level was the living quarters and the kitchen. I slammed the trapdoor there too. But it too was wood.
My blood. What are we gonna do?
I don't know. They'll be through this one in a moment.
The gallery. The trapdoor in the gallery is metal.
Good, come on. We made it. We lay across the trapdoor, exhausted. While below us, the rats took over, and the entire tower. I could hear them howling and fighting over our food, our water, our leather, and all about us. The others screamed and glared in at us, swayed in a tangled mass, hypnotized by the ever-turning light. By morning, the air in the little room was horrible. Until now, we'd been getting air from the tower below. Now, that was sealed off. So all our food and water, we laid exhausted, panting, waiting. The hours crawled on. I was almost dozing from fatigue when I saw the sight that brought me to fast.
Would you like to come through my beauties? Would you? I hold the power of life and death, and I could let you in.
Argos was standing by the glass, and in one hand, he was holding a wrench. He was tapping the glass gently, not quite hard enough to break it. I eased myself to my feet and slowly, very slowly, tippy-toed towards him.
All I have to do is tap just a little harder. Huh?
I found a coil of wire in the toolkit and I trussed him up, fastened him to a stanchion in the center of the room. Lewis was no help. He laid there on his side, looking at his bloody hand, weak and sick as a baby. So there I was, a lunatic and a coward for company. And all about, watching our little drama, the rats. The day dragged by. The supply boat wasn't due for another 12 days. I don't know what they could have done if they had came. We had only one way of summoning them, and that was to shoot off distress rockets. But the rockets were 4 floors below, and even if they'd been right there in the gallery, I couldn't open a window to fire them. That night, I tended the light, but the flame was devouring our oxygen. The following day, we starving, waiting, waiting. And the following night, I again tended the light, but the small supply of spare wicks we kept in the gallery had become exhausted, and quite suddenly, about midnight, the light went out. Nothing I could do. The wicks we stored 3 levels below, nothing I could do. Nothing. From time to time, I'd strike a match to see the clock. And then I did. When I did, it lit up, the million red eyes about us, all about, watching, waiting below. It had grown quiet. They'd cleaned us out, and now they were too waiting, all waiting. And then the rats quietly, suddenly were silent. And then I heard it. And then I saw the sky and the stars. The rats were gone. I went to the glass out there, and it and in the water a small freighter, a banana boat, showing a few lights, coming softly and innocently at us. The light was out. They didn't know. I wanted to open the window and call out to them, to warn them, somehow, but I was afraid. What what if? What if the rats were hiding from me, tricking me? So I waited. She grounded very softly on the reef, not 200 yards from the quay, grounded so gently that uh, the man playing the ukulele, was he a passenger or a crewman or watch? Didn't even stop playing. They tried washing her back off. I could have told them to save their fuel. The tide was rising. Would have floated her free, and I waited. That's all. That the story. The sun came up, and there wasn't a rat on the whole quay. Every last one of the terrible army had left us, gone back to sea, on their new ship. August, insane asylum. He never recovered. Louis, they took him to Cayenne, where he died of blood poisoning from his bite. Oh, yes. Well, that's the whole of it. And I'll be... Excuse me, now. I must go set my traps. No, mouse traps. No rats in this lighthouse. I should say, not. Life in the lighthouse isn't bad, but sometimes now I see a strange vessel approaching, I get a little nervous. Sure, somewhere on the sea there's a little banana boat without a crew, without a human crew.
From the jungles of South America, we travel around the world to the densely populated city of Tokyo. In these trying times, we all struggle to maintain social connections. In the next story, come meet a person who is willing to go to extreme lengths to avoid being alone.
It was almost 3 in the morning during my first night in my new apartment when I first heard her. What was that? She's here! Ow. Sorry, I got too excited. It's just I was waiting for you to show up.
What?
You see, long ago in a horror movie my sister forced me to watch, I saw a female ghost. Her skin was so pale you could almost see through it. I just to underline her slender figure and her straight black hair. The moment I saw her, my eyes were locked, and I could feel my heart beating out of my chest. That's when I knew. This must be love.
Yes, it's a lot of fear.
This apartment, those who lived here, ended up getting killed by a black-haired female ghost. Moving here after hearing that rumor really paid off. Go on, I'm ready to be cursed or whatever.
Oh, killed. Okay, I'm more something like an earthbound spirit, so I'm never cursed, let alone killed someone. But if it's scaring them out of here, yeah, I've done that like a couple times.
So you won't kill me?
I won't.
I'll be in your care from now on, so we can be together forever? No way, that's awesome. Amazing.
Oh god.
Amazing.
Oh my god. This guy is scary.
The movie. We could go to the movies. We go to the beach.
Well, wasn't that a delightful reversal? Let's stay with the theme of romance and peek in the window of an unassuming vehicle, parked, as so many before it, on a point overlooking the town. There is a youngish-looking man and a youngish-looking lady, sitting in this car, overlooking the town, as so many have before them. The stars twinkle, the full moon rises, inhibitions waver, and secrets begin to slip free.
There's something you should know about me.
Okay. Should I be scared?
It all depends on how you want to view what I'm about to tell you. You know, there's tons of movies and novels, all sorts of stories that just exist in this world about monsters or vampires or zombies.
Right.
Some of those stories are real. Not the stories that have been told in fiction, but the concept, the idea. There's a truth to some of these wild tales.
You're making me nervous.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you nervous, sweetheart. You aren't in any harm or danger, okay? First, when I tell you this, you're gonna think I'm absolutely crazy, but I'm not. I can prove it to you. But before I do, I have to let you digest things first.
Just tell me because you're making me worry.
Please, Hannah. I wouldn't lie to you. You are safe with me. What I have to tell you is something deeply personal, something private and real. I've never told anyone this before. It's as serious as when you told me what your mother was doing to you growing up as a child.
Okay.
I'm immortal.
Immortal? You mean like live forever?
Yes. It's why I don't age. I'm actually about to have my 1000th birthday. Not my 27th. I have a book. A book of photos of me. There used to be paintings of me, but They are gone after I took photos of them, and I compiled everything, all of my images throughout the centuries.
I don't feel well.
Can I get you something to drink? Some water?
Let me lay down for a second. I feel really lightheaded.
Okay. You're alright. Everything is alright. Rest your head for a moment.
Tell me more, please. I want to know the story.
Hannah, I was given a curse. My father's kingdom was being threatened by a king from another land. Fortunately, my entire family was murdered, and this king overtook my father's throne. I was hanged, but survived due to a rare physical muscle in my neck, which protected me from snapping my neck and suffocating entirely. My body was dumped in a pile of bodies to be burned, but dear friends of mine retrieved me, in order to give me a private and proper burial. However, a poor woman who practiced witchcraft entered where I was hidden, placed a spell over me, claiming that she was my aunt, and who was scorned and banned from my family by my father. She cursed me to live as a mortal and never die. I was in a dream state when she did this to me before she left. When I awoke, I escaped. I didn't want anyone knowing I was still alive. As time passed, I began to remember the poor woman who claimed to be my aunt. After all the devastation and carnage my family in misery, I felt ashamed to say I tried to take my own life, and drown myself, only to wake up again washed up on a shoreline. I can go on with my story. I've tried to kill myself again and again, and with each attempt, I have returned anew.
Okay, so what happens now?
You aren't afraid of me?
Never.
It's been horrible and beautiful at times. Nothing changes whether you live a short life or a long one. Humanity is humanity, and it constantly repeats. The same scenarios with different human beings. It's marvelous.
How have you survived all of these years?
What do you mean, survive?
You know, with no family, seeing people you know die constantly, money, all of it.
Just imagine the span of one human's life, then multiply that until you get 1,000 years. Everything moves consistently, gradually, just like the ocean's tide. The most challenging part is my identity, being able to transition appropriately from one period to another. I mastered it, but it's not always easy. It's easier today more than it ever has been because of technology, but I've had my challenges. It also has a flip side to it.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm becoming more known for my internet site. You know this, but it's reaching a point where I may have to vanish, because I'm starting to get recognized, and a certain level of attention concerns me a great deal. I never should have put myself out there, but I had no way of knowing people would be interested in what I was doing. It has been exciting, but,
Why is that bad? I don't understand.
well, appearing normal to people is one thing, but becoming too well known is another story. Because I don't age. Eventually, people will start asking questions as to why I'm not aging. Sooner or later, this will happen, and perhaps it's wise for me to pull out while I still can. That's why I keep a low profile.
What if you have someone take it over? You could always direct it from afar.
I'm weighing my options. Maybe shut the whole damn thing down entirely. Cold turkey may be the best. We'll see. As I've said, I'm good at transitioning, but popularity is something different altogether. The more people know me, the harder it will be for me. Time will tell, but honestly, it's the least of my concerns. My studies in witchcraft, religion, and science haven't given me solutions. I'm sorry to tell you this, but I'm constantly trying to figure out how to end this curse. I don't I don't want to be around till the end of the earth.
We end our evening back where we began, around a crackling fire, listening in as a storyteller spins a web of desperation and death. But this fire is in a comfortable sitting room, and the story involves not some vague urban legend, but the very people gathered around to listen. As you treasure your time with your family and friends, all too difficult to come by in these trying times, remember that you may not actually know those close to you quite as well as you think. Such is the verdict in the burning court, where the justice of the damned is seared in flames.
Ah, a glass of sherry by the fireside of a beautiful suburban home. What could be more comforting? You're an admirable host, Mr. Spod, and it's really a shame that our first meeting is under such a cloud. It's also a shame that I have so little time to tell you which one of your guests here murdered your uncle last week.
Oh my god, what?
Now, let's see now. I believe we're all here. Your wife, your friend, Mr. Stevens, Captain Brennan.
Yes, and incidentally yourself. Just who did you say you were?
Well, no wonder you've had so much difficulty with the case, Captain. My name is Cross. Gordon Cross, the writer. As a matter of fact, it's because of my just completed book, Poisoning Throughout the Ages, that I happen to be here now. And Ted Stevens there happens to be a member of the firm which publishes my work. I've never seen him until tonight, but I've been told what happened. This afternoon he began reading my manuscript for the first time on the train, the commuter's train, which every afternoon deposits him safely and soundly here in Crispin. I imagine he was halfway home by the time he finished the first chapter. Then he turned the page. Attached to the following leaf was a picture, and looking at it, the young man stiffened suddenly, and all but cried out in shock. It was a picture of a young woman, and under it had been printed, "Famous poisoner Marie Debray, 1676." Ted Stevens was looking at a picture of his own wife. Imagine his 25-year-old wife in the 17th century costume. The face, the features, even the wistfulness of expression were identical. Even the name, Debray, was his wife's maiden name. But no. That was ridiculous. This woman in the picture was, well, one of his wife's ancestors. Yes. That had to be it. That was it. Simply an amazing family resemblance. Mari would be waiting for him at the station, and he'd have to tell her about it. He wondered why. However, she never told him about it. Well, you don't discuss such an ancestor, do you? Ted Stevens glanced down at the chapter, to which the picture had been attached. It was entitled, "The Affair of the Non-Dead Woman."
Hello, Ted.
Stevens was almost jolted from his seat. It was Dr. Weldon, professor of English at the college, an old friend of his. Quickly, he thrust the picture beneath the manuscript and moved over.
Hi, didn't see you there, Doc. Here, have a seat.
Oh, I thought maybe you were giving me the, what do they call it? The brush off.
Oh, no, say matters of fact, Doc, you're the man I do want to see.
Yeah? Very flattering.
Remember those discussions we used to have about murders?
Better than bridge anytime.
Well, I got the idea that you made sort of a hobby out of the old cases. The historical ones.
Well, I've studied quite a number of them, yes.
Ever hear of a woman named Marie Debray?
Mary DeBray. Mary DeBray. Mary DeBray. Oh, yes. That was her maiden name, of course. One of the finest specialists in arsenic poisoning you could ever hope to find. Oh, we're almost at our station, Ted. Let's go to the door. Yes, a real charmer Marie was. Must have disposed of half a 100,000 lovers, suitors, and just plain friends before she was caught.
What happened to her, Doc?
She was beheaded and burned.
Crispin!
Oh, absurd. Laughable. Ted Stevens kept saying this to himself, and yet he knew he was a foolish dread followed him straight through the small suburban station and clung to him as he reached the street. And there, in the roadster, was Marie, leaning toward him, a little to hold the door open, and smiling at him.
Oh, Ted, what on earth are you staring at?
That street light shining on your hair. I like that.
Oh, you're tight. Come on, get in the car.
Then, like a wisp of smoke, it was gone. The whole ridiculous fear. The delusion. When at home, Marie brought the cocktails into the living room. The logs were burning brightly in the fireplace, throwing a soft, dancing glow upon the room that was darkening with dusk.
To you, Marie.
And to you, dear.
As Stevens placed his glass down, he noticed the manuscript of my book. It was there on the table, right where he'd placed it when he first came in. Deliberately, he turned from it, and then turned back. The manuscript had been moved! Only an inch or so, but it had been moved. Keeping his back to his wife, he thumbed through that early chapter and discovered, just as he knew he would, that the photograph was gone. For a long moment, he thought of what to do. Then slowly, he turned around.
This book by Cross I brought home.
Yes?
There was a story of a poisoner in it. Rather funny. Her name happens to be the same as yours. Oh, your maiden name, that is.
Oh, that is odd, isn't it?
Darling, was she a relative of yours?
Why, Ted, you're serious.
In a way, yes. Oh, I don't mean it's really important, just that, well, when you run across a person who's a dead ringer for your own wife and who has lived 300 years ago and was a top-flight poisoner, well, you'd like to hear about it. That's all.
What on earth are you talking about?
Darling, be honest with me. Didn't you look at this manuscript when I was out of the room?
No.
You didn't take out a picture of a poisoner named Marie Debray?
I most certainly did not.
Somebody took that picture out of the manuscript since I've been home. Now who's that? Well, I'll take a look. I'm afraid I don't feel like... Why, it's Mark Despard.
Mark? Ted,
Yes?
wait a second.
Yes?
Ted, Whatever it is he wants, promise you won't do it, okay?
Promise I won't do what?
I mean, promise you won't get yourself involved. Please, Ted, don't go out tonight.
Say, when the world is... Well, anyway, we can't let him stay outside. Mark, how are you? Come on in.
Oh, thanks, Ted.
Just thinking about giving you a call later.
Oh, let me have your hat.
Oh, thanks. Murray, I hope you'll excuse me for popping in like this, but... Well, I want to talk to Ted. It's rather important.
I don't mind at all.
Come on, Mark. We'll step into the library. Do you mind, dear?
Of course not, Ted. I'll be making the sandwiches for us.
We'll grab that chair in the corner, Mark. Well, let's hear it. What's the trouble?
Ted, my uncle Miles was murdered.
Murdered?
Oh, the talk hasn't reached you yet, but it's already started. Nothing definite, of course, just there was something wrong about Uncle Miles's death.
But I don't... Mark, are you sure of this? Do you know he was murdered?
I don't know. Of course I don't. I just don't see how it could be any other way. Uncle Miles, you know, had been quite sick for a while, but last Saturday he seemed so much better that Miss Corbett, that was his nurse, decided to take the day off and... Well, you know this. You and Murray were over that afternoon. Anyway, Lucy and I went to the club that night, to that masquerade party, and we left the old boy completely alone. I've cursed myself 1,000 times since.
What about your housekeeper, Miss, what's her name, Henderson? Wasn't she around?
Oh, sure. In the little house out back. We told her to look in now and then, but... Well, it wasn't good enough. It was after midnight when Lucy and I got back. Uncle Miles was dying. Ted. It looked exactly like one of his regular attacks. But then later, after he was gone, I happened to glance under the chest of drawers in his room. There was a small silver cup under there, almost drained. And Uncle Miles's cat? The cat was still warm, but quite dead.
Oh.
I managed to get the cat out of the house and buried without anyone seeing me. The next day, I had the contents of the cup analyzed.
It was poison?
Yes. Arsenic.
Well, what do you want me to do?
Help me open the crypt.
What?
I want to have a private autopsy performed. Help me get Uncle Miles's body out of the vault. I know it's a tough job, the thing is sealed solid, but we can do it.
You mean without the police knowing it?
Without anyone knowing about it. Mrs. Henderson is visiting her sister, and I managed to send Lucy over to the club.
You must be playing. You're playing with dynamite, Mark. There's something... This is something you've got to tell the police now.
I can't take that chance.
But they'll have to know sometime. You're only delaying the...
I've got to know first, I tell you. You don't understand, Ted. There was somebody in Uncle Miles's room that night, handing him something in a silver cup. Mrs. Henderson was on the porch by the window. She saw her.
She saw... her?
Ted, she thinks it was... my wife.
Oh. Lucy.
It doesn't mean anything to Mrs. Henderson yet, because she doesn't suspect anything. But, well, Ted, you've got to see why I've got to be sure. Why, I have to know how Uncle Miles has died. Because it wasn't Lucy, Ted. I know it wasn't.
Of course not, Mark. She had an alibi. Well, she was with you at the club, wasn't she?
Yes, except for half an hour.
I see.
You'll help me, Ted, won't you?
When do we start?
As soon as you can make it.
Okay. Come on now, I'll get you a hat. You trot on ahead and I'll come over as soon as I can see Marie.
You're not gonna tell her about this.
Why, of course not. I'll think of something. Don't you worry about that.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks a lot.
Marie?
I'm coming.
Darling, Mark asked me to,
I know, Ted. Here. You'd better take these sandwiches with you.
But-
You'll be hungry.
You knew I was going out.
Yes, I knew.
Listen to us?
I couldn't help it, Ted. I had an idea what Mark's visit was about. Talk about his uncle's death? There's a lot of gossip about it in the village, so I tried to tell you. Why I didn't want you to get mixed up in it. But it's too late now, isn't it? I mean, you're going. I can tell by the way you look. Ted, wait a second. There's just one thing I want to tell you before you leave. That is, no matter what happens, no matter what you find, or you think, or believe, I love you. You'll remember that, won't you?
I'll remember you said so, Murray.
By the light of a dim-lit kerosene lantern, Mark and Ted Stevens pounded their way through the thick shelf of rock that covered the Despots' ancestral tomb, pried open the great slab of stone which lay across the subterranean floor, and then, at last, descended to the dank, ink-black chamber. They found the coffin. They dragged it from its crypt and placed it on the stone, cold floor. They unclamped the lid and then opened it.
Mark, it's empty.
What? That's impossible. It can't be.
But it is, Mark.
Do you know what this means? That body wasn't in this coffin when it was placed in here. Ask where it was, Ted. From the time that coffin was closed on Uncle Miles, somebody, the Undertaker, or Lucy, or me, somebody was with it until it was buried, and the crypt was sealed right after.
Then somebody beat us to it. Somebody's broken in here ahead of us.
Broken in? Listen, Ted. Lucy and I have hardly left the house since the funeral. Do you think we wouldn't notice someone breaking through all that stone and cement without us seeing them? Without us even hearing them?
Well,
what?
Well, you might as well come out, then.
What? Who is that?
Mr. Despard, up here. My name's Captain Brennan. I'm from the office of the Commissioner of Police.
From the...
Like to talk to you, if you don't mind, Mr. Despard. Here, follow my flashlight.
But... I don't understand. How did you know about
By
this?
listening, mainly. Do you mind if we go up to your house, Mr. Despard?
Why, no. Not at all.
Oh, thank you. Oh, Freddy!
Look here, Captain,
Freddy, this is Mr. Despard, Lieutenant Gray.
Glad to know you, Mr. Despard.
And Mr. Ted Stevens, isn't it?
Why, how did you know my name?
Very simple. I got the names of everybody who was here at the Despard the day of the old man died. You and your wife were included. Ah, here we are.
But I don't... Captain, who gave you those names?
Why, your housekeeper, of course.
Mrs. Henderson?
You didn't think Mrs. Henderson saw the dead cat, did you, Mr. Despard? But she did. She also saw you bury it. We've been interested in that case ever since. Well, nice place you have here, Mr. Despard. Now, let's see. According to Mrs. Henderson, your wife was wearing some kind of masquerade costume that night. What kind of thing was it?
Well, it was a... Oh, there, you can see it. It was copied from the dress in that old painting over there.
Yes. Funny. Where's the woman's face?
It's always been that way, as long as I can remember. Somebody must have thrown acid on it or something. Can't blame 'em much. She was a poisoner.
A poisoner?
Yeah, the story goes that one of my ancestors was responsible for her execution. Marie Dabré was her name?
Yes. I've read about her. Learned all her poison tricks. From one of her lovers. Guy by the name of Gaudin Croix.
Gaudin Saint.
Yes, Mr. Stevens. We cops read now and then.
Did you say Gaudin Saint Croix?
That's French. We call it cross. Ha! Absolutely no limit to a cop's education, is there? Ha! 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 But, to get back to your wife, Mr. Despard, she was dressed like the famous Marie. Now, when Mrs. Henderson looked through that window...
Just a minute, Captain. Mrs. Henderson can't prove she saw a thing, and you know it.
What do you mean?
I mean, you haven't any right to insinuate that my wife was in that room.
Well, who's insinuating? I'm trying to say that Mrs. Henderson, after thinking it over, realized that she was tricked by the costume. The woman she saw in the funny clothes handing the cup of poison to your uncle wasn't your wife after all.
What?
Because your family is an unusually tall... Because your wife is usually a tall young woman, and the one Mrs. Henderson saw was fully half a head shorter. More on the order, let's say, of, Mr. Stevens' wife.
My wife?
Captain, this is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I don't know. What's the matter, Mr. Stevens? You're trembling like a leaf. Tell me now, just for fun. Where was Mrs. Stevens that night?
Well, she was home with me.
The whole evening?
Certainly.
She retired early?
Yes, we both did.
You, I suppose, were sound asleep by midnight.
Yes, I was.
Then how do you know where your wife was?
Well, I...
Look here, Stevens. She had to have a costume that wouldn't match Mrs. Despard's. How did she manage that? Where did she get it?
Well, she never had one. She never had a dress like that.
And what about her motive? Why did she poison him?
I don't know.
Not for the money, certainly. Then what was it? Hate? Did she hate Miles Despard?
Yes, she...
Ted!
No! I don't know. I don't know, I tell you.
Brennan,
Yes, Freddy?
I phoned and got a hold of Mr. Despard's nurse. All right. And Mrs. Stevens couldn't reach her phone. No answer.
Okay. Have her picked up.
I'm going home.
Stevens, come back here.
I'm going to get my wife.
Want me to stop him, Brennan?
No, let him go.
Marie! Marie, where are you? It's Ted. Marie, what have you done? Marie! Oh?
Good evening.
Who are you?
I. My name is Cross. Garden Cross.
Cross! Where's my wife? What have you done with her?
God.
You fiend, what have you done to my wife?
Why, nothing at all, young man. Here. Sit down.
You're lying. Something happened to her. The police just phoned. There wasn't an answer. Why are you here?
Why am I here? Well, because your wife, reading my chapter on the Diabries, realized I knew more about the family than she ever did. Because she found my phone number on the front cover of the manuscript, and because I know an exceptional case when I hear one. Does that answer your question?
No, and you know it doesn't. Can't you see I've got to... I don't know whether...
Yes, I see. Whether your wife is that Marie Debray, who was burnt by the order of the High Tribunal for all poison cases, the burning court of France, as they call it, witchcraft, black magic, the world across the threshold. You're quite sure, no doubt, also, that I am Gadon St. Croix, who first wooed her. No, my boy. No, my real name happens to be, of all things, Tom Simpson, most unsuitable for a distinguished writing career. And Marie Debray is no more than your wife's real name than mine is, Garden Cross.
What?
Your esteemed wife was an adopted child, Mr. Stevens, adopted by the people in Canada named Debray, the remote members of the real family of poisoners.
I can't believe it. Why? Why didn't she tell me?
Why? Because until now, I told her half an hour ago, she didn't even know it herself. You see, in the course of my research on the family, I found out about it, and in the course of talking with your wife, I found out something else. How for years she was haunted by the fear that she might be a poisoner by inheritance, by blood, and you can see, can't you, why she never talked about it, her past, to you?
Yeah. Yes.
And yet, Mr. Stevens, you had all but made her forget that past. And that's why she was willing to lie, to steal a picture, to do anything in order to hold you to her.
Yes. Yes, I see that now.
You know, young man, I rather think she loves you. But as you will see, though, she only comes when I call her. Mrs. Stevens?
You mean she's...
Yes? Yes, Mr. Cross?
Marie, it's you. You're alright.
Oh, yes, dear. We're both all right now. And nothing can change it, ever.
Marie, listen.
Don't say Marie, dear. Say Maggie.
Maggie?
Well, that's my name. Well, my real name. Maggie McTavish. And it's a lovely name, dear. The most beautiful, gorgeous...
Darling, please, you don't understand. The police, they think you had something to do with Miles's death.
They think I did?
So, now, Mr. Stevens, before we go back to the Despots, don't you think you'd better tell me everything that's been said and done up to date? Having just saved your wife's soul from the burning court, now arrest her body from the electric chair. Yes, Mr. Despot. Truly excellent sherry. Don't you think so, Miss Corbett?
Yes, it's very nice.
Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I happen to be here. So let us consider that our first supernatural hocus pocus in the crypt, that body walked out of the sealed tomb. That body was never in the tomb.
Never was in the tomb?
No, Mr. Despot. The murderer knew that very soon Mrs. Henderson's story would bring about an investigation. he had to get rid of the well-known corpus delicti.
Yes, but who could have kept the body out
Oh,
of the
Mr.
tomb?
Despard. But of all, why you, sir?
What?
I don't.
Spard? What?
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 No. Huh?
What?
What? Why would he?
I don't understand.
Well, it's very simple. You had the opportunity. I believe you said it yourself. You were alone with the body before the burial. And now you have the strength, I dare say. You carried it down to the furnace, where it is probably now nothing but ashes.
Ridiculous. Why would you spend an hour smashing into a crypt for a body he knew wasn't there?
Why, Captain? To impress Mr. Stevens, his witness, and also, apparently you.
Oh, that's perfectly fantastic.
Fantastic. No, Lucy, it's just comical. And I suppose, Mr. Cross, that I also put on the woman's masquerade costume, went into my uncle's room, and handed him a nice cup of arsenic.
No. That had to be done by a woman. Your accomplice, as a matter of fact. Oh, come on now. Come. You mustn't all look at Mrs. Despard, because Mark Despard's one noble act was his frantic effort to prevent his wife from being charged with the crime. A crime which he and nurse Myra Corbett committed.
Myra Corbett.
Why you?
Yes. Mr. Stevens, this quiet little lady beside me.
But why would I do such a thing?
Money, Miss Corbett, makes the world go round. You wanted a cut out of Mark Despard's inheritance. Payments for services rendered.
That's an absolute lie, Cross, and you know
see,
it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Brennan never bothered to check Miss Corbett's whereabouts on the night of the murder. Why even think of the nurse? She was the custodian of the old man's health.
You're crazy.
And yet, but who, a nurse, could so naturally offer the old man a cup he was sure contained medicine?
You're making it up, the whole thing. You're just making it up,
And
that's
who,
all.
but Miss Corbett, living right here in this house, would know what kind of masquerade dress she must copy. Would know when Mrs. Henderson would pass the window that night, pass her and see her, and accept her, she hopes, for Lucy Despard.
No, that's not true. No. I didn't do it, I tell you.
Oh, yes, Miss Corbett. Yes, Miss Corbett. That dress was the touch that wrecked you. That was your own idea, wasn't it? Not Mark's. You weren't content with the mere murderer share of the profits. You wanted a wife's share, half of the whole estate. You wanted Lucy Despard convicted and out of the way for good. Well, I give you a toast, Miss Corbett, with Mr. Despard's excellent sherry, to a particularly ruthless poisoner. And yet, on the whole, I'm rather partial to female poisoners. Why only tonight I
Yeah.
What happened?
Stand back. Yeah, let me get to him. Mr. Cross.
What's the matter, Brennan?
This man's dead.
Maya, what?
Dad, are you
died?
serious? You must be joking.
Was it?
Just took that.
And from cyanide. If I know anything, cyanide from the glass is sherry. Cyanide that the nurse could get quite easily. That glass was right beside you, Miss Corbett. Nobody else was near it. Too bad he didn't drink it as soon as you hoped. A second ago, we had nobody to use against you. But we have now, Miss Corbett. We have now. And I arrest you for the murder of Gowden Cross.
Now, close to 5 months ago, that the prominent author was murdered. And tonight, Mira Corbett pays with her life for that crime. A former nurse, at first protesting her innocence, in recent weeks has grown.
Oh, Ted?
Yes, I'm here, dear.
I thought you might. Oh, what did she cut it off for?
Huh? What do you mean?
The radio.
Oh. Well, thought you wanted to talk.
Poor Ted. Don't you think I know you better than that? It was on the radio.
Well, there wasn't. Okay, it was about Meyer Carmet. She goes to the chair tonight.
Oh.
I didn't think you wanted to be reminded.
I don't really, but making such an effort to hide it only keeps them more alive, doesn't it? Oh, alright, darling. Know what I came in to ask? If you wanted a cocktail before dinner.
The largest one you got.
Fine, I'll get out the ice cubes.
I know. I'll fix up the fire. Okay, Marie, it's a deal. Where are some papers to start it?
Right there by the bookcase. And the name's not Marie, it's Maggie. 'Cause, darling, Marie's dead and gone forever.
Oh no, Marie. We were never dead. Neither of us. It was your hand that touched that glass. I know that now. And I could return the favor. But instead, I shall ask that you dispatch your husband. This one, like all the others. Now, just a little bit of poison in that drink, Marie. Any kind of drink.
What kind, Ted? What kind of cocktail shall we have?
Oh. Any kind, darling. Any kind at all.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. Our stories tonight included Friday the 13th Part 2 by Ron Kurtz, Three Skeleton Key by George Tudose, Iwakutsuki Bukan no Yakuru-san by Aneko, Should I Be Scared by Jonathan Arnone, and of course The Burning Court by John Dixon Carr. The players featured tonight were Yuviana Bejarano, Madison Bratcher, Noah Dunning, Jonathan Fanene, Evan Putt, Thomas Schmidt, Hayden Schaufs, Felicia Tolumu, William Wagahoft, and Memphis Wright. Sound effects provided by the company. And a very special thanks goes out to Lee Butterfield and South Anchorage News for indispensable assistance. On behalf of the administration, I have been the Cougar Creeper, and until we open the catacombs back up, be safe and have a happy Halloween.